Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome in, everybody, to Sports Daily. Glad to have you here with us on this Tuesday edition. Hope everybody survived yesterday. Luckily, kind of avoided the metro with some of that severe weather. And a lot of people around us, took a little damage, but we survived it, Tommy. Not quite as bad as we had feared, and that's always great news. Glad to see everybody back here safely. We're all standing strong as we make our way through this week. Major League Baseball, we'll talk a little Kansas City Royals. Last night, you get the ace on the mound, and you get the outcome that you'd like against a good team in the Brewers. We've got that for you. Just some stories sort of spread out all over the place today. New reporting on Kirk Cousins and sort of some, I don't know if you want to call it karma or irony involved in his decision to leave the Vikings. We'll get into that. Shedeur Sanders, Deion Sanders, has been in the news a ton. Shedeur looks like a top prospect. Just how good a prospect is he? One evaluator apparently thinks he would have been the top quarterback if he'd come out in this year's draft. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. Shohei Ohtani is a stud. We knew that. The Timberwolves, well, we were maybe a little wrong about that series. Timberwolves have been dominant in the series so far against the defending champion Nuggets, which I feel great. There's a lot of long-suffering Minnesota sports fans who haven't had a championship of any kind, like ever, it feels like. So that's a pretty cool thing that's happening, too. We can get in some Chiefs talk. Tommy, good morning. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. Looking forward to jumping right into it today. The Royals game was fun to watch. I kind of had one eye on it, one eye on the weather last night, just trying to make sure that everything was good. But, man, good game for Kansas City. Looking forward to talking about that and to getting into it today.
All right, so we've got that for you. It's all available on the IHOP hotline, 869-1240. You can do that. We'll give away a little HTO later in the show as well, some tea and coffee. Lots of good stuff to get to. That weather, Tommy, you're a weather guy. You're a weather junkie. How was last night for you?
It was fine. I think it was probably right around 5 o'clock, 5:30 or so that you start to get a little nervous about what is to come. And then, man, I'm not a meteorologist, but it just kind of looked like everything kind of split Wichita. Went to the north, went to the south. Our neighbors down in Oklahoma, down to the south, they weren't as fortunate as we were. There were some major tornadoes that went through northern Oklahoma last night after dark. That makes it even worse. Pretty fortunate, I feel like, today that this part of the state really kind of escaped unscathed.
Well, these days are strange. It's not. So we talked to, the meteorologists are scientists, right? And there are just mega powerful computer systems, several of them, that try to project this stuff out, the models. And sometimes the models disagree. And then the meteorologists take all that information and try to, give us as much information as they can on what's possible, really, as much as anything else. Storms are always unpredictable. So the way I understand it from our crew is those models yesterday all agreed that yesterday was going to be really bad. And that doesn't happen.
You get that pink on those maps you see, which also doesn't happen all that often. And I think you saw to the north of us and to the south of us,
they were intense. We had lots of tornado warnings. We had, just really devastating damage to the south of us. And, I guess thank the keeper of the plains for splitting that storm right around Wichita. It happens. It's, that's kind of the old running joke, is that the keeper, splits that and sends it around the Wichita metro area. But of course, Andover's been hit in recent years. So we got lucky yesterday, count our blessings a little bit there. And hopefully the folks that did get affected can pick up the pieces, and we'll just, we'll stay on it. It looks like we got some clear weather. It's been an active couple of weeks, man. We had 2 tornadoes at least last week. Somebody was killed by a tornado. So it's been an active, severe weather season. So, just stay tuned and bear with the folks trying to keep you safe. It's all they're trying to do, is take the information and get it to you to help you be prepared and not get into a situation that you're caught off guard. I appreciate all the storm chasers, all the meteorologists, everybody who's out there trying to keep us safe during that. Mention that IHOP hotline, by the way. It's we're glad to have the IHOP hotline, of course. It's brought to you by IHOP. You can visit IHOP. Try the new If movie-inspired menu flavor items like Blue's Dazzleberry pancakes. Dazzleberry pancakes, if you'd like. So you can call into that IHOP hotline at 869-1240. You can also leave us your comments on our video stream, which you'll see on Facebook, on YouTube, on X. You can find all those. It's not retweeting. We've reposted that video stream for you on X, so you can find that. A lot of people take in the show that way. A lot of people stream the show. We get it. You're not in your car all the time. We have all kinds of different ways to listen to the show. If you are in your car and you want to take us with you inside, you just go to kfhradio.com, or you can pull up that video stream. The Royals last night, Tommy, we can start there. That's exactly what you want to see against a team like the Brewers. Well pitched, well played, well defended, all those things. Game where they come out with a 3-2 win. Cole Reagans continues to lengthen his starts a little bit, goes 6 innings again. He is back into a groove here, just 2 runs allowed. Not a lot of traffic for him yesterday. That's a big thing for him too. 2 hits allowed, 2 walks. That's it. And 8 strikeouts. So, every time out now, he's getting just a little bit better. You got offensive production down later in the lineup that really helped, but it was a Michael Garcia game. That was a really nice, clean, tidy. Bullpen was good after a couple of rough outings. Game that you could feel really good about if you're the Royals. I say really good. Chris Stratton walked 2 guys at the end of the game, but he got through it. So maybe not quite as clean as we'd like, but that was a good game. That was a good game.
Well, and I'm waiting for you to finally give some more credit to Michael Massey. I mean, this guy, since coming off the injured list, he hasn't been super consistent, but he did hit his 3rd home run of the year last night to cut that Brewers lead in half. And then Michael Garcia able to give the Royals the lead with the 2-run single. So, offensively, it wasn't a lot, but the Royals have shown that they don't need a lot of offense typically to be able to win baseball games. You go through their entire record so far, game by game, there have been a ton of games. I mean, I think close to 20 games where they have given up fewer than 2 runs, 2 or fewer. And I believe they're 16-2 in those 18 games that they've done that. So the pitching has been, I would say borderline elite for the most part, outside of some outliers. And then the bullpen, again, was solid last night as well. I think what makes that game great for Kansas City, and I mentioned it yesterday before the series started, that I was probably more interested and excited in this series against the Brewers than I was the Rangers series last weekend, mainly because of who was going to be throwing for the Royals over the next, couple of games against Milwaukee. And I think that, what definitely shows how important that game was and how the way this Royals team is built is the fact that they fell down early and then had a comeback and held on to the lead to win the game. To me, and I think you used the words kind of like an early season look at what a playoff game might be for Kansas City. I wholeheartedly agree with that because it was nail biting, towards the end of that game, kind of edge of your seat baseball game in early May, which we don't get very often. And we especially don't get when it comes to the Royals in the last several years. So that was a big time win, probably as big of a win as you've had all season long for Kansas City. And so now you've got a couple more games, to go tonight and tomorrow night, where they've got a chance to, first off, take the series tonight. And then, if they can get through tonight, then, look at tomorrow.
It was the right kind of win. You mentioned Massey. And look, Massey, I hope he's awesome. He's hitting right in the middle of the lineup right now, and he's been very handy. That would be another, kind of like Michael Garcia, that would be a huge and fantastic development if he keeps it up. I hope he does. That would add a ton to the lineup. But it's been about the pitching. I'm looking right now, and in Major League Baseball, the Royals sit 5th in starter ERA, which is great. We're now, Tommy, we're over 200 innings pitched by the starting rotations generally across baseball, or right around it, and the Royals sit with the 5th best ERA in all of baseball. The metrics, they're good. The opponent average is low. The whip is low. Everything they're doing right now is good. And so that's going to be the key to everything. It's been the reason, quite frankly, the last few years that they have been irrelevant is because they've had almost no starting pitching. And now all of a sudden they've got some of the best starting pitching in all of baseball. And the reason that, that might feel unsustainable just because how bad it's been, I get it. But the reason it's been so good, 3 of these players, and Waka hasn't even been great, they weren't a part of the past, right? You've got Cole Reagans, who came over halfway through last year. Seth Lugo came over in the offseason. Alec Marsh has been a part of that, kind of welcome to the party, and Brady Singer has been the other one who's, we've seen flashes, but it does feel sustainable. And if it is, then they're going to be right in the mix, because if you can pitch like that, the Rays have taught us for years that you're going to be there in the end. And so, yeah, you see little things within these games that make you feel good. And when Reagans goes out and does that, it looks like that was a rough couple of game stretches now in the rear view. He had 3 great starts since then.
Yeah.
I think it's been
2 against Toronto and then the one last night.
So we're in good shape. And now Lugo goes tonight. And this is what's going to make the Royals really fun, because you can put those 2 together. And if you face both of those guys in a series and in the opposition, man, it's like we're going to struggle to win this series. The Rangers broadcast crew, because I was watching the weekend games, I don't remember which day it was, but they were pointing out the good fortune of not catching Reagans or Lugo in that series. And, like the other teams are paying attention. Like when you get lucky in the schedule like that, that's a big deal. And so good for the Royals. It's looking good. The bullpen was better, still not perfect, but better.
The bullpen gave up 1 hit, 1 hit in 3
Right.
innings.
The 3 walks, the 3 walks in 2 innings, kind of between Duffy and that'll get you in trouble. That'll kill you.
Can I say, though, it was good to see Will Smith come in and pitch 2/3 of an inning and have a clean 2/3 of an inning. That had been a struggle. And, as soon as he came out, I thought, I understand MacArthur struggled on Sunday against the Rangers. And I understand that, it was not going to be a situation where we would probably see him, due to rest. Then Will Smith comes out and I'm like, oh man, like that, it just kind of makes you nervous when, Will Smith is coming out in a high leverage situation, because he hasn't seemed to have had it like he had it in the past in his career. And he pitched a clean 2/3 of an inning. And that's something that, I think you want to see from him, because while he may not be the dominant closer, and I guess, was he ever really a dominant closer? No, but, at least being able to be competent for the most part in high leverage situations. I know when he pitched for Atlanta, he was in that way. I don't think he was quite as much with the Rangers when he pitched for your team.
He helped him win a World Series.
Yeah.
But you have to know what he is. And it took him a minute. And there was a portion of last year, they didn't have a choice but to run him out there. They were literally, they didn't have anything. And so he was the best of what they had, which was unfair to him. And then they bolstered the bullpen at the trade deadline. He slid into a more reasonable role for his skill set. Look, he's a lefty out of the pen, and he knows what he's doing, and he's crafty, and he's a veteran. Those guys always have a place in Major League Baseball. And he may even be a little more than that when put into the right situation. And I think they've figured out his situation. I don't have a problem. What we saw last night from him, I think, is where they need him the most. Like, we're in a little bit of a jam here. Let's see if he can Houdini our way out of it. Right. And that's what he did. And that means, weird sort of innings and whatever it is, it's never going to be consistent for him. And that's fine. I think that's where he's best suited for this team. I like that he's on this team. I just immediately was like, he is not going to be the closer. There's no way. We've seen that story before. And they pivoted, and it's been, more or less okay. And you know what else they need, Tommy? When they're not winning a game and they're behind, they're going to need somebody to come in and just sort of eat it. And he can do that too. And they may need some of that too.
It was good to see Nick Anderson, come in out of the pen and have a clean inning. Also, those were probably the 2 guys that, we looked at the most at the very beginning of the season as disappointments in the bullpen. Doesn't mean that long-term, they're going to be able to be effective, but at least in that small sample size last night, both of them were. it does show in a critical juncture like that when the Royals are able to come back from behind, take the lead, and then have those bullpen pieces hang on to the lead. It does show, I think, the trust that Matt Quatrero still has in those guys. And that's important. I think it's important to know that because, it's very easy for you and I, or for the fan base, to just toss those guys out with the garbage after the struggles they had at the very beginning of the season. But Quatrero looks at them as, okay, we have to have them. We have to have them as key pieces of our bullpen if we want to make the playoffs. And both Anderson and Smith had really clean and solid outings last night.
Here's what's interesting about Anderson. 14 appearances this year. 12 of those appearances, as far as, runs, have been clean. He's had 2 really bad ones, right? Two where it's just gone really sideways on him. Otherwise, he's been pretty clean. In his last 9, Tommy, he's gone an inning, and all of those outings in his last 9 hadn't given up a run in any of them. Now, he can get too much out there on the bases, and that obviously makes it to where I don't know if his role is ever going to be like your, the Ned Yost days of like you give this guy the 7th or 8th or 9th or anything like that.
Yeah.
But at least he's effective because he does allow a little too much traffic for that. But at the end of the day, the innings have been clean for a while now. So yeah, you like it. Again, all those pieces matter. They only need 3 of these guys to be lights out electric strikeout artists. The rest of them just have to be able to navigate a storm when necessary. And hopefully, because the starting pitching is really good, it doesn't have to be that often, right? It doesn't have to be every day. It doesn't, it all starts with starting pitching in Major League Baseball. Do the Royals have enough offense? Well, you know what? Massey makes a hand. It's good to see Massey and Garcia as the 2 guys last night, because those are 2 guys we don't know about completely. But if they're both, good, I guess we could use the word good. Now you're looking at a top 6 in your order you really like, and you've just got to get the outfield.
It's all that you need from them. I do think, and I saw some social media chatter about this last night after the game, and I'm not opposed to this. I don't know if I want to pull the trigger on it right now, maybe give it a little bit more time, but a lot of support for swapping Salvi and Pasquantino in the lineup and having Salvi hit third and Pasquantino hit cleanup. And Pasquantino, he's got to be a key contributor offensively, and we've seen flashes of that, but there's nowhere near the consistency, I think, offensively that we need to see from him. And so because of that, I think pitchers know that. They know they can pitch around Bobby Witt Jr. They can go right at Pasquantino and then pitch around Salvi. So I think, some of the support behind that is if you flip-flop them in the lineup, then you've got a 1-2 punch of Witt and Salvi to where you can't get away with pitching around Salvi. You got to go right at him, just basically because of, the protection that you've got.
So it's what's interesting to me about the Royals and this offense is because of the 2 players that are in MVP consideration. You'd like to put them together. I get it. Who is going to get on base the most? I almost think the top of the lineup could use a little bit of a change. Maikel Garcia, to me, isn't getting on base nearly often enough, and I get why you don't want to lead off Bobby Witt. I wouldn't hate seeing Bobby Witt Jr. lead off. Massey's not getting on at a tremendous pace. Maybe he could get out there. Pasquantino's getting on at a higher pace than both of those guys because he walks. And it makes me wonder, where is it? If it's not Pasquantino in the middle, I don't know. Let's talk about that because I think it is curious. I do think they need an on-base artist for when you've got Bobby Witt Jr. behind them. They just need whoever the best play. And it's a wild idea. Lead off Vinny Pasquantino. If what he does is just get on base and he's not driving guys in and using the power, he still walks a ton. Let him hit lead off, and then you go Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez, and you just kind of let those 3 go at it. I don't think it's a terrible idea. Let's talk about it a little bit here, since it's being chatted about on social media. Sports Daily. Get in touch with us on the program. We always appreciate, by the way, mornings at KFH, our Prairie Fire Coffee. partnership there as they get us all fueled up and ready to go each and every day. We'll come back. Your thoughts, Royals fans, where you at? We got some comments to get to on that. And also the IHOP hotline at 869-1240. Albracht and Castor at Sports Daily on a Tuesday. Programming note for you here. Wichita State coaches shows are tonight. They were rescheduled, the threat of severe weather last night, so those will actually happen tonight. You've got Brian Green at 6 o'clock, followed at 7 by Christy Bredbender, and you can hear those on the Odyssey app. Then we'll join the Royals in progress at 8 o'clock, so stay tuned for all of that here on Sports Daily. All right, we're pondering this Royals lineup, and I think that I'm okay still with the way it's lined up. Michael Garcia has hit at the top pretty much all year. We've seen it be pretty much what it is at the top. I agree with the masses that maybe there is a way to better capitalize on the greatness so far of Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez. I think you could lead off Bobby Witt Jr., but then do you bat Salvador Perez second? I think that's an option. I really do. You get him the most at bats that way. That combination has been lethal with getting Bobby Witt Jr. on, letting him steal bases, do all those things. So that's an option. I honestly, though, Tommy, and you won't hear a ton about this, and I get it. Vinny Pasquantino, if you're going to move him around, putting him at the top to me does make some sense, right? Only because he walks so much, he gets on base a ton. Michael Massey's been good. He's maybe you can slide him up a little bit just because he's hot right now. But what about a line? And then you can Michael Garcia to me is, it's his pop that is appealing to me. Like make him like a 5-hole hitter. I don't know. What would you think of Pasquantino, Witt, Perez, then Garcia, Massey after those guys?
I think I would still prefer going Bobby Witt Jr. leading off. He's got the speed, he's got the power, and then I'd be okay with Salvi in the 2 spot. Then you probably, I don't know, maybe
you can go anywhere that way.
Yeah, you could go at that point. You could probably go Massey 3, Pasquantino 4, or Pasquantino 4, Michael Garcia. I don't know. You could kind of move that around, but I like the thought of Bobby Witt Jr. at 1 and Salvi at 2. Look at some of the top lineups in Major League Baseball right now. The Braves, for example, they go with power and speed right off the top with Ronald Acuna Jr. The Dodgers go with power and speed right off the top with Mookie Betts. The Rangers go power and speed off the top with Marcus Semien. These teams are doing it now where it's changed over the last several years, where instead of just a guy that gets on base and can steal bases to start off, the lineup and lead off, now they're trying to, teams are getting some power at the very, very top of the lineup. It's happened with several teams over the last couple of years, continues today. I'm okay with Bobby Witt Jr. leading off. I think that's probably your best bet, because at that point, like, to start off a game right away, the opposing pitcher has no room to get settled in. Like from the top, they've got a guy that they know can take them out of the ballpark right away. So I'd be okay with that. And I think I'd be okay with Salvi in the 2-hole.
I like it. And yeah, it's a modern look at baseball. Basically, just get your best players the most at bats you can possibly get them. And both of those guys profile just fine that way. I've had a hard time with it over the years too, like rewiring my brain. We got to have power in the middle of the lineup. For one inning, is that relevant? One, usually, right? One time through the lineup, does that ever go the way you'd like it to? I think what's more important is, who gets on base the most often and who's the most likely to get them in. That's why you'd go with Salvi, right? I would even, I think there's even the problem for Pasquantino is he's not slugging at all, but he's getting on base. So I'd probably put him 3rd and try to sort of reset things a little bit. And then you can follow him up with one of the other guys, probably Massey at that point. I like moving Garcia down. I just need, when Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez are coming up, I need the ability for those guys to drive people in. And I know Bobby Witt Jr. can't drive anybody in if he's leading off the game, but again, that's only relevant one time through. I want him to have the most at bats, and I'd like Salvador Perez to be guaranteed, if he gets on base, the opportunity to drive him in. And that's what you do by putting those two players together. Anytime Bobby Witt Jr. is on base, if they're batting back to back, Salvador Perez has the opportunity to drive him in. And I do think that makes sense. Wherever it comes in the lineup, whether it's 2-3, 1-2, 3-4, I don't care where it is.
I think you have to put them together. And
I do
the
too.
only thing that would change that would be, if you get to a point to where Vinny Pasquantino consistently is starting to drive that offense a little bit more, get on base, drive and runs, that sort of thing. It's not that he can't do it. He absolutely can. He's just not doing it consistently. And so, if that changes, and that's why I said I don't know if I'm totally ready to make that change right now as far as flip-flopping Pasquantino and Salvi in the lineup. I'd maybe give it another week or two. But if you're continuing to see Pasquantino not consistently hit, then at that point I'd be okay, because all that's going to end up doing is making the at-bats that much more difficult for Salvador Perez, because, pitchers know that they can pitch to Pasquantino and pitch around Salvi. So, if this continues for any more length of time, then at that point, yeah, I'd be certainly an advocate for switching those two in the lineup.
And Quatraro, there is also credence to letting guys work through it. And I'm fine with that too, especially when it's a player with the upside like Pasquantino. You don't want to ever make it seem like you're losing confidence in a player. Pasquantino's a little strange too, because, right, we didn't get to see him at all last year. So really, we're just kind of going off that first year's explosion of success. He's doing a lot of things, though. I'm not tremendously worried about him, just in a bigger picture, because he's walking more than he's striking out. That always makes me feel better. And I think as long as he's doing that, he's going to be okay. I mean, are we really worried that Vinny Pasquantino doesn't have power? Look at the guy. He's got power. He'll slug at some point. He's remaining patient at the plate. And I think for a guy like him, a young player, that's all you can hope for. If you're patient at the plate, look and Bobby Witt Jr. still strikes out too much. But what do you think the biggest development? We talked about this for a long time on this show as he was a young player. What do you think the biggest development in his game is? Right? His ability to draw a walk.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. It's like the last thing great young players do. They get patient. They learn that in the big leagues, you better only swing at the pitches that are strikes or you'll never do anything. And so they develop patience. Bobby Witt Jr. is still now only developing that. Vinny Pasquantino has no issue there, which is why I think he has staying power in this league, which is why I don't worry too much about him, because his power is there, right? But he walks still a ton, more than he strikes out. Is he the only guy on this team? I think he might be, that walks more than he strikes out. Let me double check that. He is the only player on the team that walks more than he strikes out. That's valuable, right? Where is the best value for it? I'm not sure. I love the idea of getting him on base and then taking two swings at driving him in with Witt and Salvi. I think it's an option, letting him lead off. But is it the best option? I don't know. Witt Salvi's probably the best option, but I think they're both interesting options. And I wonder how long Quatraro is going to stick with the current configuration of the lineup.
I don't think you need to make a rash decision right now.
No, but I don't like Michael Garcia at the top. I don't like Michael Garcia at the top more than I don't like Pasquantino splitting.
Do you see Michael
Witt
Garcia as a middle of the lineup guy or a bottom of the lineup guy?
I think so because he's interesting, because his power is, I think, what surprises us to some degree. He strikes out way too much for me at the top of the lineup. Like, if you're going to have Bobby Witt Jr. up there and deal with his strikeouts, which obviously you are, I can't have two of those guys up there like that. So, like, I think you could put him in the middle of the lineup, because it's that random surge of power that's his most valuable asset, I think, offensively. So yeah, that's where he doesn't get on base much. So I'd rather give him a chance to drive guys in than lead things off. So yeah, middle of the lineup probably. So 5-hole.
Yeah.
My ideal lineup's probably Bobby Witt. Well, see, this is why I like I might like Pasquantino at the top better, because what do you do at the 3-hole?
So I think that brings up a really good question, because it goes back to our conversations that we've had several times about the Royals' need for one more bat, and especially in the outfield.
A veteran. Yeah.
A veteran outfield bat. Because, if you're looking at that lineup and you're going through, from top to bottom, all of your outfielders are at the bottom of the lineup. I mean, you've kind of got them all like lumped in together. Like take last night, for example, outside of Adam Frazier, who played DH, who has not been good at all offensively for Kansas City. Would you have Hunter Renfroe batting 6th, MJ Melendez batting 7th, and Blanco batting 9th? So you've got all your outfielders lumped in at the bottom of the lineup. Even if Adam Frazier starts in the outfield, he's going to bat, lower in the lineup. Or if Garrett Hampson gets into the starting lineup, he's going to bat lower in the lineup. You don't have a veteran, and I don't even care how big of a veteran they are. You don't have an outfield bat that can be at the, near the top of the lineup to spread that out a little bit more. So, as we're going through this and we're like, well, man, who's going to bat in the 3-hole if they change this lineup? Wouldn't it be nice if you had an outfielder that you could just know you've got him penciled in? Like, I think if somebody, I don't even know. Like, there are a handful of names that are out there that I think could
exactly what you hoped Hunter Renfroe was going to be. I mean, that's the reality. The reality is they hoped Renfroe would be that guy. You need somebody that you like. Somebody.
I know that he struck out a ton, but this would be a situation where might not be the worst thing in the world to have Carlos Santana back in that lineup. You know what I mean? Like somebody that can hit for power, that can be in the middle of your lineup.
It may still be the best place for Pasquantino, honestly, long term. I think he profiles as a 3-hole hitter really well, but he's got to be slugging a little better than he's slugging right now, I think, to put him in there. I don't think long term. I think long term your perfect lineup is Witt 1, and then whether you put Salvi 2 or Pasquantino 2, and then 3. That's your ideal top 3 to me. But while Pasquantino works through it, why not take advantage of his tremendous eye and just put him at the top? And then you go Witt, Salvi, and so Salvi's now your 3-hole hitter. But long term, I don't know that that's what you want to do. But I don't hate that long term. Again, you have to rewire your brain a little bit, because we always think of speed and speed only at the top. And it's important. The one thing you don't want to do is not let Bobby Witt Jr. run wild. So, him at the top, he can run as wild as he wants. I think that by the end of the season, you'll see Bobby Witt Jr. leading off in either Salvi or Pasquantino in 2-3. I think that's what's going to happen. Now, I don't know what's holding them back from doing that. I really don't. Like, I don't know why Bobby Witt Jr. is not leading off, but it's not Garcia for me. He's not on base enough. Pasquantino is still handy. You could put Pasquantino 3rd right now and you'd be fine, again, because he's got a good eye, because he's not going to kill you. Usually.
Well, he is 3rd in the lineup right now. That's where they've got Pasquantino.
You know what I mean, though, but not with Salvi, not in the current configuration.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got Salvi slid up, then that's fine.
And really, I think that's the end result of this conversation right now, with the way that their offense is built. I don't necessarily care right now where they fall in the lineup. I just think that eventually you've got to swap Salvi and Pasquantino's order. I think that, whether it's 2-3 or 3-4, it doesn't particularly matter to me right this second. I think maybe over the next week or two, there'll be more clarity on that. But as of now, I think that you need to get Salvi right behind Bobby Witt Jr. to get a little bit more protection. I think you're going to get more ultimate output from the offense if you do it that way.
Pasquantino still's protection. I want Bobby Witt Jr. and Salvador Perez hitting together, and I want Bobby Witt Jr. at the top of the line. Let's just get there, because Bobby Witt Jr. getting on, stealing second, and letting Salvi take a chance to drive him in is too appetizing to me right now. I don't think Garcia is helping you much at all at the top of the lineup. It's pretty much, can he hit you a leadoff home run or bust right now? I think he needs to go down. I think that's the bigger hole in their lineup than Pasquantino right now, is him at the top. So, and I like him. Don't misunderstand. I like Maikel Garcia. I think he's a big part of what they do. I just think he needs to be thought of now more as a run producer than a run scorer, maybe, if that makes any sense. 869-1240 is the number to call. You can give us a call. What do you think, Royals fans? Let us know. We'll come back. We'll hit some of the other news and notes. There are some interesting stories out there today. Shedeur Sanders in the news. Kirk Cousins in the news. Shohei, are you watching what Shohei Ohtani's doing this year? As he's no longer in the American League.
They played the Braves over the weekend and swept them.
It's pretty wild
I'm watching
what he's doing. It's like Bobby Witt Jr. on steroids, quite frankly, without the defense, obviously. But, man, he is just wild. We'll be right back. More Sports Daily. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily on a Tuesday. Glad to be here with you. This portion of the program brought to you by Crestview Country Club. I appreciate Crestview's support. You can give them a call, learn about all their memberships, all the different things they have. It's not just about the golf. Let them know we sent you. It's not just about the golf, Tommy, because we use it all the time and I haven't even played golf yet. A lot of tennis for my wife. She is up there doing tennis 2-3 times a week usually. We will be living at that pool soon enough, as often as we can. And then, we cruise over to the restaurant because we're nearby and it's convenient. But we'll golf soon. But lots of options. They have they have memberships that don't even include the golf, that are just all the other stuff basically. So learn about all those things over at Crestview. Give them a call, and again, let them know we sent you.
Beautiful days, by the way, coming up here in the next, probably, 5 or 6 days to be able to try to get out and maybe play some golf. So you ought to check your calendar and see what things look like, because I was looking at like the 7-day forecast, and once we got through yesterday, it looks beautiful to get out there and try to play some golf.
Yeah, there might be some opportunities coming up here over the next 7 for me to get that first one in. Yeah. I need to get to the range first, or maybe not.
Nah,
maybe
you
I just go at it cold.
Just go out there
and just go at it cold.
Just start hacking.
I might do that this week. I've got my wife's out of town, and so I've got Mr. Dad duties a couple of days, so I will be a little more free because I have to deal with the kids later this week. So yeah, maybe later this week, try to get out there. I'll ponder these things. We're gonna get at Bill Self. Was it Andy Katz yesterday? He's kind of been making a little bit of a tour. A couple of things out of there that we'll get into in the next hour as we make our way through that we can touch on. I think Tommy has listened to more of that than I have. I've caught just a couple of snippets. So we'll get we'll catch the latest there. I want to talk about Shohei Ohtani and what he's doing lately, but he's reached this point. Tommy's hitting 364 right now, stealing bases. I mean, nobody's ever going to win an MVP ever again. Even if he's just a hitter this year, he's probably going to win the MVP. But whatever, we'll get into that a little bit. Shedeur Sanders in the news, Kirk Cousins in the news. So a lot to get to in our second hour. We spent a lot of time on the Royals today, which is great. I love the fact that it is May 7th and we are spending that much time on the Royals. That makes for a better summer. We'll do all of it. On the way out here, let's give away a little HTO. We'll give away 2 free iced tea cards. These will be good for either Wichita location in East or West Wichita or in Derby. Get your hands on a couple of those by calling in to the IHOP hotline right now at 869-1240. Chad will get us a winner as we make our way through. But we are locked and loaded here for Sports Daily on a Tuesday. Again, quick programming note while we have the contest there. The coaches shows for Wichita State that were supposed to be last night, Shocker fans, have been rescheduled to tonight. So you'll have the baseball coaches show at 6 o'clock, followed by the softball show at 7 o'clock with Christy Breadbinner and Brian Green. Then you'll have the Royals. Softball does start that AAC tournament, and it's in Wichita. So I'm sure there's a lot of good information to get out there. That got pushed back a day with yesterday's weather, again, that we're very, very thankful. Did not strike the Metro. Thank the keeper for that, I suppose. That's the old. How long has that rumor been around, Tommy, by the way?
I mean, I'm sure probably since the
beginning of
since
time.
It's been up and since the river has been right there. I've always heard, I mean, I grew up here. I always heard that the Arkansas River kind of directs, tornadoes away from the heart of Wichita. I mean, that's all probably an urban legend, but I mean, hey, like
I don't
anything
think
you can hang on to, try to feel better about these things. That's what we'll do. So I do feel obviously terrible for the towns in Oklahoma. Barnesdale, Oklahoma was one that's out by Bartlesville, right across the Kansas-Oklahoma border. Just pictures out of there from last night.
Yep.
Just devastating. So,
we got lucky.
I feel very fortunate that a lot of this stuff didn't come through the Wichita Metro.
All right, good luck on the contest. We're going to come back. We're going to get you hour number 2. We can start a little bit maybe with Bill Self and what he had to say. The roster may not be quite what we think it is. We'll explain when we return on Sports Daily.
Now, from Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH. This is Sports Daily with Jacob Albracht and Tommy Castor.
All right, welcome back in, everybody. Hour number 2 of Sports Daily. Thanks for tuning in on KFH. Thanks for listening in on our stream at kfhradio.com, perhaps the Odyssey app. Maybe you're listening to us from the future, and this is a podcasted form. Always a great way to take in the show. And thanks for watching our video stream, new and improved. Tommy's done a great job making that thing look nice and fancy. We're growing that thing a pretty great deal. Share that if you see it out on social media. Maybe you're on X and you want to invite other people to the show. That's easy. Share it. We're reaching new heights with our video stream. So we always appreciate everybody tuning in and watching, listening, whatever it is. Your appreciation is ours. Benny wins our HTO iced tea cards today, our giveaway there. Congratulations to Benny. Maybe give those to a teacher you love, Benny, since you've got 2 of them as we're coming into Teacher Appreciation Week. Good moment, by the way. Thanks, teachers, for another great school year. I know we got a couple of weeks left, but it is always a good time to appreciate the teachers out there. Thank you so much. Tommy, I want to get your take. So Bill Self just did an interview with Andy Katz. It's nothing earth-shattering. He's just kind of out there publicly. I know he was on with Bob and Jeff here recently. You can go back and listen to that, by the way, as well at kfhradio.com. But for me, there were some roster notes. What were the big takeaways here? Because in the severe weather madness of yesterday, I did not have time to go in and listen to that entire conversation.
Yeah, there were 2. I think the biggest one was that Bill Self saying that probably Johnny Furphy is going to stay in the NBA draft. And I think that that's something that we all sort of maybe thought was going to be the case. Didn't really have any, for sure definite answers. I think Bill Self effectively closing the door on that. I guess anything could happen, but it sounded like in his interview with Andy Katz that Furphy is projected to be in the first round, drafted in the NBA, and that more than likely he will stay in the draft. And I think that really, we talked about it before, even if he wasn't a first round draft pick, the fact that he can't earn NIL dollars because he's from Australia, I think that probably plays a large role in this as well. So that was one big takeaway. The other big takeaway, Riley Kugel, who was the first transfer portal player to be announced by Kansas to come to the squad for next year. Bill Self says it's up in the air on whether or not he will actually be in Lawrence or not. And so those were probably the 2 big takeaways from that interview.
And that tells me that he's probably not going to be in Lawrence, right? I think, and I say that and kind of laugh because it's, I think, a part of, this is why players love Bill Self. I think he's probably trying to do Kugel solid here and sort of maybe generate a little buzz for him to find another spot, because Bill Self knows, like we've all wondered, like, how does he fit in now anyway with Stores and some of the other guys that they brought in and the return of the freshmen. They have, I'm going to duck when I say this after the last season we just watched. They have too many good players right now. And I don't
you
mean
can
that.
Never
you can never
have too many good players.
I know, but what they have room for, if the freshmen are going to stay, you still want to have the ability for those young players to get playing time between, McDowell and El Marco coming back and the freshmen incoming. Like, you'd still like to see, these are elite prospects, much bigger prospects than Kugel was, when he was coming in. So I would still like those players to have opportunities to grow and play and not get smothered out by older, experienced players. So I don't want to say they have too many good players in that sense, but if you're going to try to get those guys in the mix, then you kind of do have too many. And I don't, the depth became an issue last year because Kevin McCullough got hurt, because Arterio Morris never played for KU, and because Hunter Dickinson got hobbled toward the end of the year. The depth was sort of in. Oh, and by the way, Nick Timberlake did not turn into anything like they had hoped. So you had this perfect storm of bad things happening, and then all of a sudden you don't have any depth, right? So again, I'll duck when I say that. If Kugel goes, I think it's the best thing for Kugel for sure. And I'm not so sure, Tommy, it's not the best thing for KU, because I think what's more important to KU than that particular player, being a role player, is the hopeful continued development of either the sophomores or then the now freshmen coming in. Also, they need another big man, so maybe they need scholarship room. Bill Self's calculated in this. Don't think that he's not. I think absolutely he would like to help Kugel find a different place to play, would be my guess.
And what I know about Kugel, and this has been speculated for a while, I don't have any confirmation on this, so take it with a grain of salt. But what I've heard from a handful of people is that partially some of this with Riley Kugel is an academic holdup where transfer credits are not, transferring in the right way, that sort of thing. So I don't exactly know, really what the full story is. It sounds like, and again, from what I've heard, that he wants to be in Lawrence, but I wonder if some of this is a playing time. Probably a lot of it is a playing time situation, and maybe a portion of it is academic. Bill Self also said in the interview with Andy Katz yesterday that he wants to have 8 starters. And that's a little bit of a different, mentality and philosophy. I mean, you can only start 5, right? But like he wants to have 8 quality players that could start at any time and get extended minutes in a game, clearly because of the lack of depth that they saw a year ago. So that's a huge role in it.
I think that's a part of it. But don't you think it's also because they can, because they have that caliber of player? So I think, yes, again, I don't want to only think about next year in terms of what happened last year, because last year everything went wrong for them. So I don't, you still want Bill Self to sort of stick to his plan. Bill Self, the best KU teams have always been 7, 8-man rotations of meaningful minutes for those guys. I mean, they just have, right? The most recent national championship, Remy Martin was coming off the bench, basically. So, and KJ Adams was contributing. Like, they need those players. They need 8 starters, basically. When you've got the experience coming back that they have, you need 8 starters. You would like for Hunter Dickinson to be able to get some rest, for KJ Adams to not have to. Could you imagine KJ Adams if instead of 30 minutes, he gave you 24 absolute 100% energy minutes? DeJuan Harris isn't coming off the floor. We know that. But there's plenty of room for other guys to come in and be explosive and run and never be tired. And you don't have to worry about these things. They're still going to have guys shoot the ball well. That's the one thing I don't know about this team still, Tommy, is how well are they going to be able to shoot the 3?
Well, I think they're going to shoot it a lot better than they did a year ago. That's for sure.
But that wasn't even close to enough, right? Yeah, it might be better than it was a year ago.
But think of the 3 guys that they brought in. I mean, all 3 of them, I'm talking about the top tier transfers that committed, all of them historically have been good shooters to great shooters. Like in the case of Zeke Mayo, has been a great shooter. And outside of Zeke Mayo, the other 2 come from really top tier, big level programs and shot the ball well. That was the thing about Nick Timberlake, was that he had the stats to back up that he was a great perimeter shooter, but he came from a program like Towson. And so, not that it's not a knock on Towson, but just the caliber of the opponents and things like that, not quite playing in a Power 5 level. So, I mean, I think that there was a little bit, I think we got a little bit, there were too high of expectations for what Timberlake could actually do. I think that we over quantified the impact that Timberlake would have a season ago. But a guy like Rylan Griffin coming from Alabama, that's top tier. AJ Storr coming from Wisconsin, that's top tier. So I do think that you can bake that in a little bit. And I'm just going to say right now, I've got no doubt in my mind that both of those guys, the way that they shoot the basketball, and even Zeke Mayo to an extent, that will translate well to what Kansas is doing.
Well, I do want to point out that Storr was not a great 3-point shooter last year. He was a great 3-point shooter at St. John's, but only took about 3 a game. Last year at Wisconsin, just all the way down to a 32% shooter, and it's not a volume shooter. I think it's in his arsenal, but I wouldn't say that he's going to be a 3-point shooter. Zeke Mayo certainly is. Around 40% on a higher volume again last year. Zeke Mayo took almost 7 threes a game last year. So Mayo for sure is there. And then Griffin, that's a big part of his game. That's a big part of his game that really developed last year, Tommy. He became a 40% shooter on almost 5 a game. So you're looking at Griffin and Mayo, yes. right? I don't know that they're going to use Store that way. It's in the tank, maybe not, and maybe you get enough between Mayo and Griffin at the 2, right? Because DeJuan Harris is not coming off the floor, so you've got those guys at the 2, sort of interchangeable, I guess. And here's the other reason why you think about it as 8 starters. If you're just talking about those 3 with the 3 big returners they have, that's 6, right? And you see, like I do anyway, I see significant minutes for all 6 of those players. You have to see that. And then you have the other, the 2 sophomores. Is it how many freshmen are left now? 2?
2. Yeah,
2
you've
freshmen.
got Flory Badunga.
So you have those.
You have Rakees Passmore. Those 2 guys are still committed.
So you have those 4 collective, right? That, at least one of them is going to step it up, probably a couple. And then now if Kugel goes somewhere, and I would say much better than 50-50 chance he's playing not in Kansas next year, or at least not at KU anyway. Then it frees up. They do need another big. And maybe it's Clements, as Ken points out that, he could come back. I think they need another big, Tommy. Just, and it doesn't have to be like earth shattering. It kind of like what they did with Brown last year. But you got to have somebody. You got to have somebody there. One of the freshmen is a big, right? Or big-ish.
Flory Badunga is.
How big is he? How big? Like center big, or
yeah. I'm looking up his stats right now.
That may help you out too.
He was the top ranked center in the class. When he committed last August to the.
So that may be enough there. That may be enough of a rotation with Clements, Badunga, and then Adams and Dickinson. Because
he's the number 1 center in the freshman class. He's not huge. I mean, he's 6'9". He's a 6'9" center.
So he's KJ Adams.
Yes,
probably.
Yep.
AJ Store is 6'7". Okay, so if AJ Store needed to play that power forward, they're probably not going to play that way, but you know what I mean. He can also do that. So really, you've got a rotation down low, potentially, of Store, of Dickinson, of Adams, of Clements, of Badunga. That's probably fine. They're probably okay there. I don't think they're going to go out and get another high profile player. I really don't. I also think there's a good likelihood, Tommy, that they eat that other scholarship punishment. Don't you? Just go ahead and eat it this year. I think they have the liberty and the luxury of doing that. And the reason I say that is next year, you can't bring back Dickinson and Harris. At least you're gonna lose those players. You're gonna lose those significant minutes. I'd rather have the extra scholarship next year and take the L on it this year if I'm Bill Self.
Yeah, I think it depends upon what's out there and what's open for you, remaining. I mean, if there's an opportunity.
Let's say Kugel leaves. Well, let's say Kugel leaves. Do you think KU has enough today?
Enough for what? Enough to win a national championship?
Enough for next season. Yes. They're going to be the preseason number 1. Now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that concerns me a little bit is they be pretty top heavy. The one thing that I liked about Kugel being on that staff or being on that team is that provides more depth and somebody capable of coming off the bench and having that level of trust. If you've got, somebody in foul trouble, or if you've got, injuries or things like that, you've got the team in capable hands at that point. So I think they've got enough. They would be top heavy. I don't think that even if Kugel doesn't show up to Lawrence, if the opportunity presents itself for Bill Self to have another transfer that can be an impact depth piece off the bench, I think you would take that. I don't think that you would just say, "No, I'm going to pass on that," and we'll
still have the scholarship. If Kugel doesn't come, then they would have that and they'll use it.
Sure.
But it's the Furphy scholarship you can just sort of leave alone, right?
Yeah.
Right? If I have the numbers correctly, his you can just leave out there. Now, if he returned, obviously you'd take him. But if he doesn't, then you just eat that scholarship. If Kugel doesn't come, it allows Bill Self to be a little more precise in exactly what he thinks this roster needs. I just think with Griffin and Store and Mayo and the 3 of the 4 young players, then not including Badunga, I just don't know where Kugel's going to get minutes. I don't. And I think the best thing for Kugel would be to go elsewhere now. I think he's been pushed further and further down the roster. And if you're leaving Florida as a 10-point-a-game player, you still got a ton of eligibility. I just wonder, like, if you're Bill Self, you certainly don't want to see him leave and then go to K-State, right? Like you said, like there's some risk there too. But I feel like Bill Self's doing him a solid when he goes out publicly and brings that up. Partly doing him a solid and partly just kind of the elephant in the room is it's probably not going to be the best situation for him to come here now. And, that is an unfortunate part of, all of this with the transfer portal is you kind of get pushed out, but at least it's happening now where, Self can, in all likelihood, help him get somewhere else where he will have a better opportunity, because that's, why players love Bill Self, is because he's always been very pro player in that sense. But interesting comments. I think it was the Andy Katz. You can go find those if you'd like, but check it out as we, look again to another season. KU's going to be the preseason number one this year. I mean, they're number one in every preseason thing I've seen, with Houston right behind them. Big 12 basketball is going to be incredible next year with Arizona joining into the mix and all the other teams. So it's time to get excited there. We'll see. K-State needs to make that other move they're going to make. They need to add a little beef to the roster there. They're a little light, I think. And of course, we are continuing to watch Wichita State in the transfer portal.
Well, and hey, real quick on Kansas State, and we haven't talked about it. I mean, there were two big targets that Jerome Tang was going after that over the weekend committed elsewhere. And they were, I think potential impact players for the Wildcats. And so, yeah, I mean, I would agree, a little light right now. There are still a ton of players that are out there and available.
There are.
They'll be okay, I think, as far as filling those holes. But those were, I mean, Khalif Battle was one of them that I think would have been an impact player, for sure. So they missed out on kind of the two top targets that they were going after.
I'm more worried that Ames and Kaluma are not going to be there. Two guys I thought would be there, right? They don't have much right now. I mean, they don't.
Doug McDaniel. I mean, that's probably the hopes and dreams of the Wildcats.
And a good incoming class. They got a good incoming class of young players. Castillo's coming in. They still have, but Ames was one of those young players you thought was going to be a part of the mix. They need some dudes right now. They do. They got work to do. And there's time. Of course there's time. And they have plenty of opportunities to do it. You still got to do it. Wichita State's in the same boat. We'll continue to watch both of them as well. All right, when we come back, a little NFL quarterback talk. We'll hit on two stories that are out there this morning. Kirk Cousins, did he make the right decision to go to Atlanta? Well, obviously hindsight now with the Penix pick, but wait till you hear what one publication is reporting is one of the reasons he decided to leave Minnesota. Makes it maybe even worse. And then Shedeur Sanders. I don't know if you've come around on this, Tommy. We've disagreed on his status for a while, but he's going to be the top quarterback taken. And some evaluators think he would have been this year. That might be a little rich for me, but we'll get into that as well as we make our way through this Tuesday edition of Sports Daily. Stick with us, everybody. The IHOP hotline is open for you. And again, it's brought to you by IHOP. You can visit IHOP and try the new If movie-inspired menu flavors like Blues Dazzleberry Pancakes. Think about that during the break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily here on KFH. Jacob Albracht, Tommy Castor. Thanks for tuning in, watching the video stream. Lots of good comments there. A lot of those coming in on the YouTube stream, so you can see those. You can also leave us your comments on Facebook that we see, tweets, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it. You can also call on the IHOP hotline. Good old-fashioned way, 869-1240. It is open today for you. Let's talk about a couple of stories in the NFL, Tommy, this morning. It was Sports Illustrated reporting that one of the reasons, and money was a factor here, but one of the reasons that Kirk Cousins chose to go to Atlanta from Minnesota is because Minnesota was open about, trying to look at quarterback also in the draft. And then, of course, history shows us that Kirk Cousins goes to Atlanta, gets paid, and then Atlanta is the team that also is aggressive at quarterback in the draft. So, I'm not trying to say I feel bad for Kirk Cousins. He got just gobs of guaranteed money. He'll be fine. But it is sort of interesting that he kind of got, it's not, he didn't get screwed. Atlanta picked the player that they liked. There's nothing wrong with what Atlanta did. I don't know if it was the right decision, but there's nothing wrong with making the decision strategically, in my opinion. But what a weird offseason for Kirk Cousins, who was probably, Tommy, had he stayed healthy last year, he was probably going to win the MVP. So he leaves Minnesota, where he has Justin Jefferson and, all these great young weapons, goes to Atlanta, which is still a pretty good, situation offensively, but not as good as it was Minnesota. And then the same thing happens to him there that he was trying to avoid anyway. I think I've thought forever Kirk Cousins should have stayed in Minnesota. I really think it now. He will make Atlanta better. I don't think Atlanta is going to be better than Minnesota would have been with Kirk Cousins. He was going to win the MVP last year if he stayed healthy.
Yeah, but on the surface of it, you can definitely look at that story and say, oh, he should have stayed in Minnesota. And, it's too bad that the fact that, they told him that they were going to look at quarterback, made him leave, and then the Falcons ended up taking a quarterback in the draft and he was blindsided. Yeah, on the surface, that's a really good story and all of that. But if you dig in a little bit deeper, a big reason was that Minnesota, they were not willing to guarantee any more than 1 year of a salary for Kirk Cousins. I think the
money was the biggest factor.
But had they gone to 2 years guaranteed contract, then at that point, I think he probably would have stayed with Minnesota. But I think he figured that, okay, they draft a quarterback, or even if they don't, more than likely, I'm probably going to be on the move after 1 year. And so I think because of the lack of guaranteed years on the contract, I don't even know if it's necessarily guaranteed money, as it is more of guaranteed years on the contract. It was basically only one that the Vikings were willing to do. And so he was able to go to Atlanta. They guaranteed him more years. He got 2 years guaranteed, more guaranteed money, all of that. And yeah, I think one way or another, stay in Minnesota, they still probably would have drafted JJ McCarthy, knowing that he probably would have been.
If the draft fell the way it did, they absolutely would.
He probably would have been on the move after next year. And then, we would have been doing this all over again. So I think one way or another, it was going to end up, there was going to be a quarterback, breathing down his neck. And at least in Atlanta, he's getting more guaranteed years and more guaranteed money.
And Atlanta's a good situation. Don't get it wrong. I like some of the weapons Atlanta has. It'd have been nice if they had a receiver at that spot they drafted Penix, obviously, because they could have had Rome Odunze there. To go with Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan Robinson, and you really like that makeup. But they got Darnell Mooney, I think, in there now with Kirk Cousins, which should be a pretty good fit. He's an underrated player, I think, a little bit. I'm going to stick with my bold prediction on Kirk Cousins, Tommy. He'll be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys either next year or the year after that. I think it's going to happen. He'll be without a spot. They'll be ready to go to Penix. Dallas will be ready to move on from Dak because this isn't going anywhere, and it'll just make too much sense. That's my prediction for you. I made it a while ago. I'm sticking with it. I think Kirk Cousins, before he's done, injuries aside, will be the quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. It's coming. It's coming for you. All right, the other quarterback situation I want to talk about is Shedeur Sanders. I said this a while back that I think he is going to be in the mix to be, when we first started these conversations, we were talking about first-round pick, Tommy. First-round pick. But, he is flying up the draft boards here.
He is. And do I think that overall, he's going to end up being the top quarterback in the draft next year or maybe even the number one overall pick? Yeah, maybe so. And it certainly is trending that way. Do I think that it's likely that he will pan out to be that long term in his NFL career? I don't. I'm not a huge Shador Sanders believer. I don't think it's not that I don't think he's going to be a viable pro, because I think he probably will be. I'm just not sure that from what I've seen so far that all of the hype is worth that. I mean, I think that we're kind of in a situation now where there's been, I don't want to call it overhyping of Shador Sanders, but I certainly think that we're in a position where he's gotten all this attention because of the program that he's in, who his dad is, all of that. And again, I mean, I think he'll be a good pro quarterback, and he may even very well be the number one draft pick next year, the top quarterback or whatever. I'm just not sure. I think it's a little bit overhyped at this point.
So it was in the Washington Post had a longtime NFL evaluator say that, quote, he was quarterback one for me if he came out this year. You're going to have to manage him a little differently. This person said Deion's going to be heavily involved. You have to be prepared to deal with that blank. But I love watching him play as a born winner. So when this all started for me, like I just watching Colorado when they were sort of humming and, the offensive line wasn't as bad as it was and they were healthy. Like when I watched him play, I'm like, dang, like he is good, right? Because I didn't watch him at Jackson State. I'm like, Shador is the real deal, man. He hangs in there. He's tough. He can make the throws. I think he is like I said first round pick, and people were like, what? No, they lost all these games. And I'm like, yeah, but he's really good. They had a bad roster. Now we're getting into the conversation where I think he'll be the first quarterback taken for sure, which typically falls, and I think he may be the top overall pick. I don't think it's crazy, and I think he does fit the profile. Do I think I would take him over Caleb Williams? No, I don't think so. Jaden Daniels? Boy, it would be close for me at that point. And I think, because I've had a hard time with Daniels, McCarthy, and Penix anyway. I don't have Drake May that high, but I think he'd be up there. I do. I think he's good. And I hope that they at least get the line solved so he can not just run for his life all year long. But what that did show me last year is that he's a tough kid and he's a tough player because he got rocked last year behind that terrible offensive line. And he hung in there and stuck with it and did a really nice job, I thought.
Like I said, I think that he is going to be good, but I do think that we're in a world of overhype because of who he is and because of the attention that he gets. Doesn't mean that he won't be good, but I think people are ready to crown him and, make him this future Hall of Fame championship winning quarterback. And I don't see it yet. Maybe I will at some point, maybe down the road I might. I just don't see it quite right now. I heard a comparison the other day, and this might be a little harsh, but I do understand the similarities in the comparisons. Somebody compared Deion Sanders and his boys to LeVar Ball and his boys.
Oh, come on.
I heard that comparison. The difference is like Deion knows what he's doing because he was a professional and he's a coach and all of that, right? Like,
and a Big 12
and LeVar is just a loudmouth. But there are some comparisons there.
I don't.
There absolutely
only
is.
that he's in the public eye. But you want to talk about credibility? No, I mean, I don't even think it's close. Deion's a Hall of Fame player.
Okay, but let me bring this up then. Do you think, because I believe this, that the level of hype that surrounds Shador Sanders is not unlike the level of hype that we had when it came to Lonzo Ball. And not that Lonzo Ball wasn't a bad basketball player. I mean, he clearly played. He had a good college career, like all of that. But the amount of hype around both of those guys, that is comparable, I would say.
I think the ball kids were appropriately hyped, and for the most part, injury aside, have lived up to that in their NBA careers, I think. Here's what I would point out, because I know that's going to be everybody's concern, but how has and I understand that Deion is more, again, public facing and in the public eye more, but I don't know what that has anything to do with Shador. But has it hurt Bobby Witt Jr., Fernando Tatis Jr., Patrick Mahomes, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., like all of these second-generation athletes, Jackson Holiday, like all of these guys, Bo Bichette, all of them, Kevin Biggio, like they're all thriving right now with pro athlete dads that probably maybe not as public facing with it, but were very involved behind the scenes with what was happening with their kids, right? I don't believe for 1 second that these kids' dads who were in the big leagues were not very much pulling levers behind the scenes to get what they wanted. They're just not as public facing with it as Dion is because he wears it all on his sleeve. So I don't think that's a detriment. I think there are far, far more success stories for second generation athletes like this than there are stories of failure because you're so much better prepared for everything that comes with it because you lived it with your dad and your dad can tell you what it's like. I think they're more inclined for success. I think it's a plus that Shedeur Sanders' dad is a Hall of Fame football player because he kind of understands now everything that go. I mean, he clearly already, Tommy, understands in the NIL space how to market himself effectively, right? He knocks that out of the park as far as engagement and all that stuff that's going to make him money. I think this stuff all helps him as a player. For me, it's all just about as a player, is he good enough? Man, I think he is based on, when they were healthy and he got a little time, I thought he was outstanding last year. I couldn't believe how good he was. I had no idea he was that good until I watched them play early in the year. And I'm like, man, he's making all the throws. He's getting rocked and gets right back up. Like all the things that you like about a college quarterback, he had it all.
So why didn't he enter the draft for this year? Like why did he decide to come back to Colorado?
Could have been a business decision, right? It was a quarterback rich draft. And maybe instead of the, top 1 or 2 quarterbacks, maybe he is the 6th quarterback taken. And then it becomes a business decision at that point. I mean, I think that's within the realm of possibility. Was he was draft eligible?
Yeah.
Yeah. I probably, you got Hunter coming back because a couple of reasons. A, money's not a factor for him, right? His dad's Deion Sanders. He's making tons of money in the NIL space. So I don't think it had to be a money decision in that way. But, you come back, he's going to have a chance to win a Heisman. What are the Heisman odds right now? Anybody higher than him? Because I bet they're not. Let's take a look at some Heisman odds.
I'd be shocked. I would be shocked if
Quinn Ewers is probably Quinn Ewers is a little higher.
Okay.
Carson Beck is higher. Will Howard's actually up there. Where is Shedeur Sanders? Oh, hang on a minute. We may need to make a live bet on the air here. If he's really not in the top 5, Jalen Milrose up there.
But don't you think Gabriel, even if the odds
the
are
problem is they're
low,
they're going to not win enough
yeah,
games.
Who's around him, and that's been the big story with Colorado is just the mass exodus of players out. Dylan Edwards, obviously one of them that we've talked about here close to home, but I think that's going to be a big key to it as well. I mean, I don't know if there will be, I think I can be fairly confident in saying this. I don't know if there will be
35-1 right now.
I don't know if there will be another quarterback as good as Shedeur Sanders on a team that is as bad as Colorado probably will be this coming year.
Colorado's got a chance to be good enough, I think. I know they've had a mass exodus, but they also had a mass influx at the same time. And Travis Hunter is going to be a Heisman candidate as a two-way player. He's 35-1, which, by the way, is the same as Jalen Daniels. And now it's getting, we haven't even looked at Heisman, and now I want to look at Avery Johnson. Arch Manning is 150-1. I don't even see Avery Johnson yet on the list. Hang on now. We got a bet to make here. How about Will Howard up there high on the list? That's kind of cool, right? We got to make an Avery Johnson bet. We got to make an Avery Johnson bet, a Shedeur Sanders bet. Maybe should we get Jalen Daniels in there? Probably at this point, I think we need to. I don't see Avery Johnson on this list. Does that surprise you, Tommy?
Well, no, because I think that there's still some unprovenness from him as far as having that role all to himself because of just kind of the back and forth between him and Will Howard from a year ago. This will really be the first time that we'll have seen Avery Johnson have full control of that offense. And, I think that, of course, as the year goes on, you're going to see those odds start to increase and, him fly up that list. But no, as of right now, that doesn't particularly surprise me.
I'm missing him. He's got to be on here because I'm okay. I missed him. He's 25-1. He's better than all that. I was like, this is nuts. Like, I would much rather take a flyer on Avery Johnson as a Heisman winner than Jalen Daniels.
I do think
I'm trying to say he's better, but
even at 25-1,
there's the injury risk.
Even at 25-1, I do think that as the season progresses, you're probably going to see him, climb that list.
You will, because we think Kansas State and Kansas. I think Jalen Daniels will be in the same boat if he's healthy, which is his big risk, obviously. Those two teams are going to be good enough that the quarterbacks are naturally in there, and now you've got these dual threat quarterbacks and offenses that both look right now pretty good. Yeah, so you've got – all right, so here's what we've got. Avery Johnson at 25-1, Jalen Daniels at 35-1, Shedeur Sanders at 35-1. I'm okay with all three of those. If you're telling me that Quinn Ewers and Carson Beck are the favorites right now, I think all three of those quarterbacks are better than those guys. So now they may not have the kind of seasons, right? Because of where those guys play, but just player to player, I'd take the others. I'm okay with those in.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
We'll get those bets in. Those won't stay that low. Anyway, back to the point of the conversation on Shedeur Sanders. I think he's good enough. I think he's going to be a good pro quarterback. I love his game. I think if I had to rank it with the quarterbacks that we just saw as far as NFL type players, I might go Caleb Wilson 1, Shedeur Sanders 2. Maybe.
Like as of right now?
As if he was in this last draft class. I like Jaden Daniels. Don't get me wrong. I just have such an injury fear with him, because he's going to run a lot. And that's it, really. That's about the only thing that worries me there is Anthony Richardson last year, or the quarterbacks that like to run a ton get hurt. And so, Shedeur Sanders, who to me profiles far more as a pocket passer, kind of like Caleb Williams does, I think I'd rather have one of those guys. And I do like J.J. McCarthy. But I think I might put Shedeur right behind Caleb Williams if we were to enter him into that draft class. I don't think he would have been drafted that way. Don't get me wrong. I think he would have probably been he probably would have gone between McCarthy and Penix, maybe. If not, certainly between Penix and Bo Nix. We're taking Shedeur Sanders over Bo Nix. Let's be real here.
Can we see him play this year? Before. Yeah. We
I saw him play last year, though.
I understand.
I'm not crowning him anything.
I understand. I understand that he had flashes, and I'm not saying that he's going to be a bad quarterback. I think he's a fine quarterback. I just think that the hype train around Shedeur Sanders right now is a little over the top. I'm not.
Which part of his game did you not like?
It's not about not liking any of his game. I think he's a fine quarterback. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he'll be a good pro. But come on, being the top quarterback right now, in next year's draft class, let's see how he plays this year. And then at that point, I'll be willing to say, okay, yeah, he's the best quarterback that's out there. But there are a lot of other quarterbacks that are
70% completion last year, 27 touchdowns. How many interceptions do you think Shedeur Sanders threw last year?
He didn't throw
on that terrible team.
He didn't throw many.
3.
Yeah, he didn't
3. He's got it all. He's got it all. He played on a bad team. That's it. That's the only thing that held him back. He played on a bad team. I don't know. That's what I mean. I hate holding. He doesn't run much either, by the way, which is, to me, not a bad thing. I don't know why but him as a player, how good was Drake May last year? You know what I mean? So what that he played for a bad team? My eyes tell me he's good. And I hope I hope they're good for about 1,000 reasons this year. But I would have probably taken him too. Count me in on the hype train there. I'm going to go put my Heisman bets in right now during the break. We'll be back with more Sports Daily.
.97.5 and 1240 KFH.
Brought to you by IHOP. Visit IHOP and try the new If movie-inspired menu flavors like Bruce Dazzleberry pancakes.
Hi, I'm Trey Bossa with Market Medicare Advisors here in Wichita. I'm excited to announce I'm hosting a brand new show, Health in Retirement. Our team of health insurance advisors will educate you on healthcare pricing, exercise and fitness, and news updates in an easygoing and fun conversation. Go to healthandretirement.com to watch the show and submit questions you want us to answer. Health and Retirement. Golden advice for your golden years.
Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor, not connected with or endorsed by the U.S. government or the federal Medicare program.
Spring is in the air, and that means one thing. Dandelions are coming. Don't let those annoying yellow weeds invade your lawn again. This year, trust your lawn to Ryan Lawn and Tree. This is Larry Ryan. No other lawn care company delivers the results that Ryan Lawn and Tree delivers. More than just providing a beautiful dandelion-free lawn. Your trusted pros in the clean red trucks make sure your entire landscape is healthy, strong, and ready to look great no matter what nature throws at it. And unlike the other guys, the pros at Ryan Lawn and Tree are employee owners, full-time professionals going above and beyond every day with 5-star customer service. Call us or click ryanlawn.com today. And as a new customer, you'll save 50% on your first lawn application. Enjoy a worry-free, effort-free, dandelion-free lawn this year with Ryan Lawn and Tree.
Where can you get the best pizza, pasta, hoagies, and salads? Pizza John's in Derby. Since 1969, families have been dining at Pizza John's. Stop in at 208 South Baltimore Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. or order online. Pizza John's, purveyors of round meals and flat snacks.
A 1957 Chevy, a single perfectly formed red rose, a mother's soft lullaby. All these things come to mind when you think of classics. Or what about a clean, crisp white cotton shirt? Or the sparkle of a diamond solitaire ring, like the ones you find at Mike Seltzer Jewelers. Now there's a true classic. In business since 1950, Mike Seltzer Jewelers has it all. Longevity, a name everyone trusts. True dedication to service and value. And right now, this classic store is making all the elegant jewelry that Wichita has loved more affordable than ever. From May 1st through June 30th, almost everything in the store is 50% off. Classic, elegant jewelry that everyone can afford. Mike Seltzer Jewelers, 2929 North Rock Road in Coma Terrace Center. 50% off during May and June. Elegance is now affordable at Mike Seltzer Jewelers.
Hurry in, sale ends June 30th.
Sealmaster, providing solutions for all of your pavement maintenance needs. Pavement products, pavement equipment, tools, accessories, and parts. Sealmaster is here to help contractors get the job done right the first time. Located at 4336 South Broadway. Sealmaster.net.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6812. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6812. That's 800-575-6812. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
KIN Sports, I'm Spencer DeBree. The Royals scored 3 in the 7th last night as they came back to beat the Brewers 3-2. It was a solo shot from Michael Maskey to start things off in the 7th before a 2 RBI single by Miguel Garcia, scoring Nelson Velasquez and Connor Frazier put KC in the lead for good. Co-Ratings got the start of the mound, going 6 and 8, giving up 2 hits, 2 runs while striking out 8, but got the no decision. Nick Anderson got the win, pitching the 7th and striking out 2. Tyler Duffy and Will Smith got holds, splitting the 8th inning, and James MacArthur got the save. After the game, manager Matt Contreras discussed how competitive his team was in at-bats late.
The 2 walks were huge to get us going. And then the competitiveness in the at-bats was really good. I mean, these guys, we've seen it over and over. I know the walks were in the 6th, but to drive up the pitch count to get to the bullpen, and they just don't quit. I mean, there's nothing, I wish I could put my finger on it and say, let's do that in the 1st. But for whatever reason, the game gets later and they come through.
The Royals are now 21-15 and take on the Brewers for Game 2 of the series at 6:40 p.m. with Seth Frugal on the bump for KC, while Colin Ray will pitch for the Blue Crew. Kansas Information Network Sports, I'm Spencer Dupuy.
Dude, you gotta hear this.
Go ahead. I think I want to hear this.
Sports Daily is on KFH.
Welcome back in, everybody. Sports Daily on a Tuesday. Glad to be with you. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, for watching on the video stream. Rick says Avery Johnson's not even the best quarterback in Kansas. I'm guessing Rick is a KU fan. Who are you taking, Tommy? Avery Johnson or Jalen Daniels? Let's just say that Jalen Daniels is fully healthy.
Yeah,
all year.
You're going to get me in trouble with this. I love Avery Johnson. Love everything that Avery Johnson brings. High ceiling kind of guy, dual threat. I mean, everything we know about Avery Johnson. When healthy, Jalen Daniels is proven. And so simply because there's more, I think, proof when he's healthy, Jalen Daniels probably has more upside. That being said, Jalen Daniels has had quite a few injuries the last couple of years where we haven't seen that from Avery Johnson. So I understand, like, if you're going to bring in injuries as part of that conversation, then it's probably Avery Johnson.
Yeah, it's for sure Avery Johnson. I actually think the opposite. I think Avery Johnson has the higher ceiling, but if we're considering, if we say Jalen Daniels is healthy, I think he has a higher floor probably. But I don't think there is a ceiling that could appropriately be there on Avery Johnson.
I don't think we've seen enough from Avery Johnson.
Well,
we saw some
what
last
I'm
year,
saying,
but
what I'm saying is
his,
we saw
and the
him.
Is his. I don't know if we
saw
enough.
him as a runner last year, but I'm telling you, my eyes have never seen a more gifted thrower at the high school level of the football. And I do think people forget, as a thrower, he went to all the, the Trent Dilfer Elite 11 camps. And he was the guy that everyone came away with like, holy crap, who is this kid? Like, he's that guy. And he can run like we saw him run last year. I think the ceiling on him is by college terms, like, it's limitless for what he can do because he can do both things so well. Jalen Daniels, I think we've kind of seen the ceiling, and that ceiling is Heisman good, right? We know what it is. It's already there. It's his floor that if he's healthy, I think that you love about Jalen Daniels. I just hope he's healthy. And by the way, we're having fun with this because Rick brought it up. I literally just put Heisman bets on both of them. I think that they will be potentially massive reasons why if we end up having this college football season in the state of Kansas that could be as good as it's ever been, it'll largely be because those two guys are healthy on the field and playing well. But you're talking about a season realistically that if those two quarterbacks stay healthy, Tommy, we could see two Kansas teams in this new expanded playoff. There is a great chance that the top two teams in the Big 12 both get into the expanded playoff, and there is a great chance that the top two teams in the Big 12 are Kansas and Kansas State.
Well, shoot, I'm willing to say right now that I think it's probably, assuming injuries and health, if everybody stays healthy, I think it's probably more likely than not that we would see both Kansas and Kansas State representing the Big 12 in the new expanded playoff. I mean, think of the other teams that...
You think they'll be picked 1 and 2?
Yeah, think about the other teams that are in the conference for next year and who the main competitors are going to be now that Texas and OU are on their way out. Even the incoming schools in the Big 12 have had quite a bit of transition. I don't think Colorado is... I mean, they're not going to be there. Arizona was a really talented team, and then Jed Fish left, and so he's not there anymore. So there's going to be transition there for sure. Utah is maybe the biggest bet out of the incoming schools in the Big 12. But really, other than that, you're looking at what? Oklahoma State, probably. You're looking at Texas Tech, potentially. Iowa State, maybe. But I think it's probably Kansas and Kansas State are, the 1 and 2.
I think it will be 2. I do. By the time the dust settles, I think that's what we'll get. By the way, Kansas State to make the playoff right now, just to make the playoff, only plus 250. Kansas, only plus 550. Those aren't even long enough odds for me to tell you what Vegas is thinking about those two teams. I don't
mind
know
the Kansas bet. The odds are a little bit longer on that one. You can make a decent amount of money if you bet Kansas. I do like those odds.
Right now, Utah is the only other team. Utah's with K-State at 3.5 to 1 to win the Big 12. Next is Kansas. So odds-wise, those are two of the top three, with Utah, the other team in the mix. And I won't pretend to know everything about Utah right now, but it's going to be there. And just wait. The hype train, the conference, preseason stuff happening in Vegas. Like, come on now. It's going to be an awesome college football year. Cannot wait for it. We didn't get to Shohei Ohtani. All we were really going to tell you is he's awesome. Good luck to everybody else in Heisman. He's just
your favorite sports like never before at BetMGM. Sign up using code BUZZER and receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. That's code BUZZER. When you register with BetMGM, you'll get instant access to a variety of parlay selection features, live betting options, and the best daily promotions in the business. And with BetMGM at your fingertips, every play and every game matter more than ever. Remember to use code BUZZER. That's code BUZZER. And receive up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. Place your money line, prop, and parlay bets with the king of sportsbooks today. BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 plus only. Kansas only. New customer offer. Subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire in 7 days. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you.
It's $5.99 barbecue time. Hurry to Hog Wild for a complete barbecue meal that's only $5.99. Terry Caldwell, Hog Wild partner and general manager in Wichita at Maple and West Street, has all the details on this smoking deal.
Get a Hog Wild sandwich loaded with our award-winning meats like pulled pork, pulled chicken, or hot wings, plus your choice of a classic side and a drink for just $5.99.
Upgrade your sandwich to beef brisket for just $1 more. Join us for lunch or dinner. You can also order online at GoHogWild.com. Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. 6 locations in Wichita. Also in Derby, El Dorado, Hutchinson, and Salina.
Go Hog Wild Pit Barbecue. Hog Wild, get some for you. But don't be late, we close at 8.
Save big money on roof and floor trusses. Now at Menards. We carry a large selection of pre-built, residential, and post-frame trusses to complete your next building project. Bring your building plans to your local Menards or upload online and start designing your trusses today. Save big on trusses at Menards. And don't forget to check out our flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Save big money at Menards.
A complete 180 from yesterday will have lots of sunshine and a high near 80.
Weather brought to you by Express Employment Professionals. If you're ready for a new job, let Express Employment Professionals help you. Express is your one connection for summer jobs in a variety of industries. Visit expresspros.com.
For the ones who work hard to ensure their crew can always go the extra mile, and the ones who get in early so everyone can go home on time, there's Grainger, offering professional-grade supplies backed by product experts so you can quickly and easily find what you need. Plus, you can count on access to a committed team ready to go the extra mile for you. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The good folks at Wendy's have a revolutionary new product for you. Introducing the new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty. It's like a time machine that takes you all the way back to now, the year 2024. It's the classic creamy, orangey flavor you remember. Dare I say, it's new-timey. It's the flavor you grew up with, just all grown up. Head over to your local Wendy's establishment and get yours while supplies last. The new Orange Dreamsicle Frosty. Here for the now, for now.
Limited time only at participating Wendy's.
The KFH Studios, powered by Devon James Injury Lawyers. Call 888-8888.
That's 888-8888.
Minor League Baseball. If it seems like the Wichita Wind Surge is never at home, well, you're kind of right. Wichita has played the fewest home games and the most road games so far this season in the Texas League by a 2-1 margin. But this is a home week for the Wichita Wind Surge, and the weather is going to be great. 6 days in a row, Wichita hosting Arkansas. The Travelers in second place, the AA affiliate of the Seattle Mariners. Odyssey Radio is the media sponsor for tonight's game. 6-game series, Wichita hosting Arkansas, starting out at 7:05 tonight downtown at Riverfront Stadium. We had to postpone the Shocker coaches shows last night because of weather, so we'll do it tonight. The Brian Green Show with the Shocker baseball coach at 6 o'clock. The Christy Breadbender Show with the Shocker softball coach at 7 o'clock, previewing the conference tournament, which starts tomorrow. That's all tonight right here on 97.5 and 1240 KFH. And then we'll join the Royals-Brewers game in progress after that at 8 o'clock tonight. here on KFH. I'm Ted, the Sports Head.
The unrivaled leader in sports audio, reaching 2 times more people than its leading competitor, Odyssey and KFH Radio.
Wichita's most listened to sports radio, 97.5 and 1240 KFH.
All right, Ted took you through the programming notes there. Seth Lugo is your starting pitcher tonight for the Royals, taking on Colin Ray. Colin Ray's been good. It's another good pitching matchup against a good team with the Brewers. Brewers have been an effective offense. We'll see if Kansas City can get it done. Their other ace on the mound in Seth Lugo tonight. Tommy, I like their chances. I'm sticking with my Rangers-Royals winner bet in a little parlay. It's been good to me this year.
I'm excited about this game. I mean, they can take the series with the win tonight, and Lugo has pitched really well, so it's going to be a fun matchup.
We'll be back tomorrow to talk about it all and more. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. For Tommy Castor and Jad Chambers, I'm Jacob Albracht. See you then.
An Odyssey Sports Station. This is 97.5 and